Right. You can let them in.
Okay, everybody's in and we can get started. Let me just get my flag up.
Okay, thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of Bradley Beach's Planning Board of February 25th to order. Will everyone please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'd ask that everyone please silence all the cell phones and other paging devices as they are distracting to others. There's a lot of background noise at your location. Please move to a quiet area. All participants should keep their devices muted until you're called upon to speak. This will allow for a clear and concise recording of these proceedings. The 48-hour notice as required under the Open Public Meetings Act has been met, as notice of this regular virtual meeting was emailed on February 3rd, 2021, published in the Asbury Park Press, the Post-Star, and the Poster. A copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the Borough office, and a copy has been filed with the Borough Clerk. Chair Shook?
Here.
Mr. Albanair?
Here.
Mayor Fox?
Here.
Mr. Mulcahy?
Mike, you're muted.
I apologize. Here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gubitosi?
I just seen him.
I know, he was just here a second ago. Okay, Mr. Rosenthal?
Here.
Mr. Chung?
Here.
Ms. DeMarco?
Here.
Mr. Maynard?
Here.
And Mr. Advento?
Here.
And also present this evening, Monica Kowalski, attorney to the board, Gerald Frieda, and Christine Bell. And just give me 1 second because it looks like Al's coming back in. He's back out again.
Yeah,
he's having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Next up is the approval of the meeting minutes. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 28th. Did everyone have a chance to review those minutes? Can I have a second?
Mr. Chair, hold on. We have Mr. Gubitosi who is logging in now. So
okay.
Al, can you just unmute so we can call you for the roll?
I hopefully am unmuted now.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I was just asking everyone if they read the minutes of January 28th, if there was any issues, and I made a motion to approve those minutes. That's the January 28th meeting minutes.
And Meredith, you're my second?
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Albanair?
I wasn't present at that meeting.
At the January meeting?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Was I?
No, I
the
think
28th.
I know I missed the meeting. Was that?
You missed February.
Oh, okay. Okay. I did read them and they're fine. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mayor Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Gubitosi?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Jung?
Yes.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard?
Yes.
Mr. Advento?
Yes.
And Chair Shook?
Yes. At this time, can someone, is there any questions on the February 11th meeting? And if not, can someone make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Advento is my second?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Mulcahy?
Actually, I was recused too, so I'm not sure.
Yes, you were. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were recused not from the entire meeting, but from, this is just for the minutes.
Yeah, I read the minutes.
So yeah, you can approve the minutes.
I didn't recuse myself from the minutes, no.
Okay. Mr. Mulcahy?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Jung,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Maynard,
Yes.
Mr. Advento,
Yes.
and Chair Shook.
I recused myself from that one, but yes.
Yep.
Okay. Resolution of to be memorialized, the appointment. So resolution
Mr. Chair?
2021-03.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'm going to step down on that one.
I was gonna say, do you mind if perhaps I suggest that we do letters A through H, noting that C is blank based on an auto numerical number, and move those as a consent agenda for approval?
Okay. The only thing is I can't vote on A.
Okay.
So
you
I'll
can
make a
you can
motion
you can
to-
I was gonna say, if the boards just, you know, for purposes of time saving, we can have a motion for an approval by a consent agenda of resolutions A through H, noting that C is blank, and Mr. Chair can recuse himself from A.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
sorry.
Fox.
Oh, it was Mayor Fox.
Yes. I didn't want to repeat it because I'd screw it up. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Advento. Mr. Gubitosi.
I'm having trouble hearing, sorry.
Okay, this is just for memorialization of our resolutions from our reorganization meeting.
So I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Jung?
Yes.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard?
Yes.
And Mr. Advento?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolutions from D through H on the appointments.
Mr. Chair, they're approved as a consent agenda, A through H. Your vote is only a recusal on A, but when you vote yes, you vote from B through H, so you're fine.
Oh, okay. All right, so we just did that one. All right. The consistency determination of ordinance 2021-5. I'm gonna recuse myself from voting on this one.
Okay, so Chair Shook is recused. Mayor Fox is also recused, and so is Councilman Gubitosi. So
also, any discussion, I'm recusing myself on that one.
yeah, absolutely. You can't participate in anything regarding this particular ordinance and the consistency.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, with regard to the determination for ordinance number 2021-5 of the Borough of Bradley Beach to amend and supplement sections 450-12, 450-13, and 450-26 of Chapter 450, zoning of the borough's revised general ordinances to clarify permitted yard encroachments and to provide certain relief to non-conforming lot owners making only minor improvements to their properties within the borough, introduced at the Borough Council meeting on February 9th, 2021. Do we have any commentary with regard to the ordinance at this time?
Monica, do we want to take this page by page as we did the last time?
You're muted, Monica.
Monica, you're muted.
You're still muted, Monica.
Just,
There we go.
Is that working or no?
Yes, that's working.
Now it's working.
Yeah, sorry, the space bar wasn't working for some reason. Okay, so with regard to page 1 of the ordinance, which begins with Mayor Fox offering, and through section 1, there is no, where it says now, therefore be it ordained, there are no proposals. Those are findings. And when we go into, let's see, section 1 at the bottom of page 1 into page 2, is there any commentary? So bottom of page 1 through page 2. Hearing no comment. Hearing no commentary with regard to page 2, we are now moving into page 3, beginning with upper porches and ending with section C4, balconies through height. Are there any commentary?
Monica, I have one with B3 on height.
Okay.
And this is more commentary on the language. I understand this is obviously ordinance language, it's not conversational English. But so the best way for me, I read that phrase, and so I just put to you, in other words, does this section 3 say, in essence, that there are no porches allowed above the second floor?
No.
It actually, yes.
All right.
This does not allow porches above the second floor.
All right. I mean, I read everything else up to and around that, and everything else, even with the ordinance language, I understood. But this, I just tripped me for some reason. I just want to make sure.
It's difficult, especially when you're using words like above and lowest in the same sentence. It's hard, but what you said is absolutely correct. No porches are allowed above the second floor.
Then how can it shall comply?
Pardon?
Because then it goes on to, it says they're not allowed, but then it says they shall comply. I don't understand that.
Right. Yeah. This was a tough one. It's the ordinance language being what it was. I just found this very difficult to get through. And I would just suggest that there's a way to rephrase it.
Yeah.
So as not to be confusing to any applicant who reads this for guidance.
So it's not going to allow people to have decks above the second floor?
Wait, what did you just say?
It's not going to allow people to have decks on.
No, this is not decks. This is
porch.
Only upper porch enclosed.
And it's upper porches, not porches. We identified, we split the two because in Bradley Beach, typical Bradley Beach home has the porch on the front, and it has a porch. Many of them have a porch on top of the porch in the front, and that will continue to be allowed.
Yeah.
If you want, we can just strike. We can recommend striking and shall comply with principal structure setback requirements.
Okay.
Or you can split it into 2 sentences. No upper porch floor is allowed above the second floor.
But why?
No, I hesitate to do those things because the group that put this together looked at everything comprehensively, and I don't want to just agree to do that because I think it could cause a problem.
So why don't I just make the suggestion that in B3 that was questioned as to the allowance of the porches above the second floor, and to strike the and shall comply to the end of that particular sentence.
It's just a suggestion.
And we'll also ask them to revise the definition.
Yeah, I would just go for clarity here.
Okay.
And is that account for apartments too, or just single family houses?
This is anything allowed in the in that zone, the R1 zone. R1 zone and the RB zone.
Yeah.
So you do have situations with a townhouse or something like that.
Right.
But in a townhouse, they would be allowed to have the second one. If there's a half story or a third floor, that would have to go back to the board they'd have to get a variance for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're not saying you can't do it. We're just saying that generally it's not allowed, and you would have to go for a variance for that.
Okay.
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 Are there any further questions with regard to page 3? No. Okay, moving on to page 4, beginning with the word enclosure, all the way through the word height. Are there any comments with regard to the consistency on those?
A question on D3 and E3.
D3 and E3?
Right. Are they both saying the same thing?
Yes, they are, but one is talking about decks elevated.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's talking about decks on grade.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we should make this
addressing the decks in separately.
So the wording should be different, not uniform?
No, I mean, the way it's stated is fine. I don't, is there a problem with what, you guys see a problem with the language?
I was just looking at consistency.
Well, just keep in mind it's consistency with the master plan. So yeah, you're looking for consistency within the resolution, which is fine, but they're looking at it from a different angle for purposes of the review. But so Jerry, there's no there. It would probably actually be better for it to be separated, correct, Jerry?
Yes, because they're actually two different portions of a structure.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions on page 4 or comments? None. Okay, moving on to page 5, beginning with the word enclosure and moving all the way through H, entry platform applicability. Are there any comments with regard to that? Hearing none, we move to page 6, beginning with the word setbacks, all the way through the words heating or air conditioning. Hearing none, moving on to page 7, starting with the words review required, all the way through the words fire escapes. Is there any commentary with regard to those?
I have one. Under J35, J35, it's a simple phrase, must maintain ADA compliance. My question is, does ADA compliance, is that sufficient? Does that need any more detail?
I will put that in.
No, and the reason why is because the state and the federal government are constantly changing the requirements for ADA compatibility. So if we were to put in anything more than what this says, we'd have to change it every time that they changed it.
All right.
All right. So
say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would it be helpful to say must maintain current ADA compliance, to put that much of a definition, or is that understood as well?
That's understood. That's absolutely.
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it could be added. We could suggest the word be added, but it would become somewhat redundant.
Okay.
What do you think, Monica?
I'll put it in. Couldn't hurt to just stick it in there and let it go back. And if anybody wants to change it.
So we want to add the word current.
Current, yeah, must maintain current compliance.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Now, before we can leave that, and it's a separate issue, but when I saw ADA compliance, it came to my mind that this ordinance talks about various categories of additions to structures, and was there any consideration to making a category regarding ADA accessible ramps and walkways?
That's all part of the building code.
Okay.
The construction code, and that's all addressed at that level.
All right. Yeah. So the fact that it's not in this ordinance doesn't mean that it's not addressed elsewhere.
Exactly.
It actually would not be in a zoning ordinance.
All right.
It would be in the building code.
I'm reading this, from my perspective, and seeing ADA compliance. I was saying, well, is there any language here that needs to be in here for ramps and walkways and their impact on as in this ordinance? But yeah, I'll accept your answer. That's fine. I just wanted to raise that question.
Okay.
Oh, very good.
Awesome. Okay, moving forward onto page 8, where it starts little I fire escapes, all the way through. Let's see. So it would be through section E2. The rest of it is not reviewable. So, are there any comments? I'm sorry. It would be through little 3 on page 8. No. Okay. And
excuse me, before we leave off page 8.
I wasn't going to leave page 8. I was actually going to do section 3, but go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
sorry.
I was jumping the gun.
Yeah, I was not clear.
All right, go ahead with section. Well, since you've mentioned section 3, there's my entree.
Go for it.
Section 3, is that an ellipsis under section supplementary regulations before you get to subsection 2? there are 3 asterisks.
Yes.
Does that mean that there's language that we've skipped over?
I have no idea why those ellipses are there. This is just how it's presented to us, but I'm assuming that they may be, I don't know. I mean, it looks like they could be keeping space for a number 1. Could have been a page break. I have no idea why they're there.
All right.
It doesn't mean anything legally other than somebody might have made a typo.
No, I can't offer anything either. I don't know why they're there.
All right. I mean, it seems like there's a subsection 1 that's somewhere.
Yeah, but this, yeah, and there very well may be, but this is then it would only be that section 2 is the language that's being changed. So section 1 would be left alone. So
okay.
it could be a placeholder, but you know.
Okay. It was just unique in this ordinance.
It's like the missing C
what
in the
does
agenda.
It mean?
It's fine.
What does it mean? 3 dots.
Okay.
Right.
Let's see. And so section 4 and section 5 and section 6 are not reviewable by us. Those are just the standard language, and likewise page 9, section 7 is not reviewable. Does anybody have any further questions, comments, concerns that they'd like to add into the consistency resolution? Okay, so we are looking at B3, which with regard let's see, references the porches above the 2nd floor, and we are going to request that the shall comply to the end of the sentence be struck. We're going to ask that the definition be revised or clarified. In the next section, D3 and E3, the elevations for the deck, we're describing the deck elevation and one for an elevated deck and one on grade, the reference separately, that's appropriate. The weather protection, we will ask for the ADA compliance language to say that it maintain current ADA compliance. And that's it. All good?
All good.
Awesome.
So we're going to need a motion from someone and second.
Well, we're getting there. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen of the board that can vote, can we have a motion to move that resolution as amended?
I do. Well, we move it.
That was a mark. Okay.
That was a mark.
Thank you.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Mr. Advento.
That was Mr. Advento.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Advento.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Jung.
Yes.
Mr. Maynard.
Yes.
Mr. Marco.
Yes.
Mr. Mulcahy.
Yes.
Mr. Albanair. He's muted.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Okay. Having no further matters before the board this meeting. Our next scheduled meeting will be our regular meeting on Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m., which will also take place via Zoom. Please check our website for any updates regarding meeting location and or meeting access, as links, meeting passwords, and meeting IDs will change for each meeting that is held via Zoom. And with there no further business before the board, a motion to adjourn is requested. And who will it be offered by?
I'll make that motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Shook coming back in. Okay.
Yeah.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Meredith. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All the
Bye.
best.